Hey there, everyone. This is Ryan from the Coffee People Podcast. And I want you to know that I don't just host coffee podcasts, I also listen to them. One of our recent guests, James Harper, is the host of Filter Stories. I originally reached out to James because his show is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. On Filter Stories, James does deep documentary-style dives into things like the history of or the science of coffee from an outsider's perspective. I'm not a science guy, but when James starts a new episode of Filter Stories by heading down the rabbit hole to explore how our perception of smell or taste can be changed by the environment or even the music we're listening to while we drink a cup of coffee, I'm enthralled. I've shared the links to Filter Stories in our podcast notes, but you can also search for Filter Stories on Apple or Spotify. You'll find the show there too. And I hope you listen, because you'll come away not just learning facts, but with an awareness of how you experience coffee. And because you can never listen to enough coffee podcasts, check out Filter Stories on your favorite podcast platform. Before we get started on the show today, I want to shout out the presenting sponsor, Roastar Coffee Packaging. We couldn't do this without them. You can find Roastar online at roastar.com. Now, on to the show. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 10 of the Coffee People Podcast, which is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network, and presented by Roastar Coffee Packaging. I'm Ryan Woldt, and this is the show where I meet really compelling human beings. We meet really compelling human beings from all corners of the coffee industry who come on this show to share their story and let us know how they got from there to here, wherever here might be. Somehow, we're already nearing the end of Season 10. It feels like just yesterday I was Googling, what microphone should I buy to host a podcast, and is it possible to make a living hosting a podcast? Actually, I'm still Googling that last one. I'm grateful for all of you who support this show by listening, sharing, and buying us a cup of coffee every now and again. If you're digging all that we're putting out and want to support our efforts at growing into a video podcast, you'll find the link to either subscribe or buy us a cup of Joe in the podcast show notes, wherever you happen to be listening. Today I'm chatting with Daniel Kurnianto, the founder of the BOSeTAMPER, an automatic espresso tamping device that sits on the portafilter. With the press of a button, it creates a consistent tamp by pushing down a plate. You can see video of the BOSeTAMPER in action on YouTube, and we've shared those videos in our newsletter, found at coffeepeoplepodcast.com. Daniel has been through some pretty intense ups and downs as an inventor and entrepreneur, and he joined the podcast to share both the origin and the goals for the BOSeTAMPER as it moves into its next act, mass production and adoption. Myself, I've got a full mug of medium roasted coffee from me and my Uncle Coffee. I think this is the Chiapas that I brewed in a French press this morning. And I bet wherever you're listening, you've got a full cup of coffee too. So, let's learn more with Daniel Kurnianto, the founder of BOSeTAMPER, based in Boston, Massachusetts.
Hi Ryan, my name is Daniel. Kurnianto is my last name. I'm originally from Indonesia. I moved to Boston about 15 years ago, and then we reside here since then. I am an engineer. I like tinkering. I like making stuff. Your hands uh, make your hands dirty. I guess that's what I like. Prototypes things. I work full time in a biotech automation company. Since then, since 15 years ago, we make high-end automatic for labs, drug research. Like a new drug discovery, all of those things. So
Okay.
mechanical, electrical, software control. That's all of my cup of tea kind of things.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I love to share more about coffee.
So the reason we're chatting today is I've seen your company, the BOSeTAMPER, short for Boston Electric Tamper Company, and I think it's Radic Labs or Radic.
Yeah,
That's your company. You invented or you've designed a automatic tamper for,
correct.
an espresso machine. First of all, let's start with how did you get interested in coffee in the first place that you would even know what a tamper is?
Yeah, there's a good story there. So maybe like couple years ago, let's call it 4 or 5 years ago, I start to have, or how about this? I start to enjoying drinking coffee, especially just espresso, because I really like the smell, the aroma. Coffee smells good too, but espresso is just different. And then I like to purchase from local coffee shops. And then COVID hits. We know those story. We have to work from home, and then I start to, why not just buy my own espresso machine? It's kind of expensive, right? Like, 2000 ish kind of thing. And then yeah, we talk to my wife, and then where's the coffee machine will be installed, because like it's quite big in the kitchens. And then finally we got the first one. It's a very small simple one, so, and then we start to make our own coffee, learn from it. And espresso is not easy, you know it's not simple, call it, right?
It is not.
Couple steps, couple things that you have to learn. I start to purchase coffee bean from local company. I Google it and I found somewhere that I can just drive there 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then pick up from there. Join to a very well, friendly Facebook groups. Aficionados. Yeah. So talk about those, asking a lot of questions. Learn about it until I found that tamping is not as easy as what people talk. Learn from its repeatability, precision is always the key, and that's hit really strong to my brain, because in my work, in my engineering professional work, precision is the thing. So, coffee is something that I like to enjoy, and then the process of making espresso, something that I really enjoy as well, because it's really scientific kind of approach, right? You have to do this, you have to do that. If you change this, you will change that, all of those story.
I want to just kind of mention here that when we're talking about consistency, I worked in a coffee shop for a year
Mm,
and I learned how to do everything the way that they wanted me to do it, but
yeah,
I could, even after a year of practice, I couldn't get consistent manually tamping, which
yep,
is one of the reasons why I was really interested in what you're doing. So I
yep.
just wanted to say that up front, that I'm coming to it as someone who has failed at that part of making espresso.
There is another story around this, and this is a real story, that why I end up basically, hey, let me solve this problem. So before the COVID, so I mentioned, I always purchase, or buy the coffee from local that I like. And then one day, suddenly I feel like I taste the espresso. I always order latte. So I'm not straight drinking espresso, but latte. But it's enough to tell that something changed from the espresso they make, until like I learned that they change, or they have different barista at that time.
Mhm.
And combined with my understanding, learning my own espresso, now I understand that the tamping is a thing. As a coffee or a coffee shop owner, I believe you will end up hiring multiple barista, right? And then they might have different way of tamping. Everything else is the same. The bean is the same, the water temperature is the same, machine is the same, the cup even the same, every all of those things. The only different end up now is the tamping process. So
Right.
all of those story kind of like make me think that I think I can do something here. And then at that time, I actually do not think to make a company. I'm just like, I like 3D print, I like tinkering, and I make very simple prototypes. Another story that is actually very interesting to mention is at that time I'm taking part-time master degree on engineering management, and then
Mhm.
there is one course that actually do product design uh, at that time. And then like, let me take serious on this, use this as the opportunity to bring, to the real product presents in the course. And then the professor really enjoy. And like he even mentioned that, Daniel, I think this is one of the best after so many years from the student, that the project is not just something that you want to go through on your class, but really a good product to design. So you are doing really well there. And then since then I show it to some people in the community, from mostly from the Facebook page, Facebook groups, and everyone just basically freaking out, like, "Wow, I never see this, blah blah blah," and then even very warm feeling, or when I have the prototypes that I think it's good enough to start selling it to test the market. I show it in SCA, Coffee Expo at that time in Boston, which is basically for me very convenient. It's just drive, 30 minutes from my place. And so spend some money, take the saving, even get my wife's and my daughters helping me on the booth. And again, like all the swearing, the excitement, then they see it. This is the best I see on the show so far. Like nobody have this kind of like invention. All of those. That was very very good, warm feeling. Yeah.
Let's explain just real quickly. I just want to make sure everyone listening understands what the Bossy Tamper is.
Mhm.
It's an automatic. It's an
Handheld.
attachment
Yep.
that you add to an espresso handle, a cup there that
Yeah.
tamps the coffee down in a
Yeah.
consistent way every time, but you
Yep.
don't actually do it.
I do not. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could kind of describe it. I see you have one there here
Yeah.
there with you.
Yeah. So BOSeTAMPER is basically an automatic temper. If anyone knows Spark Press, most of the cafe owner knows Spark Press. So Spark Press is basically electronic automatic temper, a desktop, which basically you have to put it on, 110 voltage on the wall plug.
Hmm.
And then in the other side, other barista make espresso with manual temper, right? Like metals, can be something simple, can be some more complex with spring loaded, auto level, all of those good features.
Sure, and they're using it to press the coffee down to into the cup to
Yep,
make sure that it is like a compact puck, is how we
correct. Yep,
describe it.
yep. Compact pack that's supposed to be the same compressed, same force applied level, also very important for espresso, because like when they extract, they want to extract the same in every area.
Hmm.
So Boss e-temper is basically an alternative tamping, both handheld and electronics. So it's run with a small batteries. There's one small motors there, and then the mechanisms able to deliver the plates always level. So you got everything basically. You got the pressure always the same. Again, precision, consistency is the number one things that why Boss e-temper is very helpful. On top of the small handheld, you can carry it. It takes very small space on the counter. And So I want to mention about this because the sound is so iconic, call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like let me put this next to my microphone. So if you can hear that sounds, so this is the motor that engage when the sensor pick up one of the flaps, which is basically the way how the BOSeTAMPER works. So you just place it there and twist it like, and then the sensor engage and push the motor to drive the plates down and press the coffee puck.
One of the questions I had was the time and how long it would take. And when I was doing a little research and watching some videos, I was concerned if I were in a cafe working, how much longer would it take me to pick it up, put it on the thing, and do it? But it's just as fast as manually tamping. There's
Yeah,
no difference really, if not faster, because it's the same every time.
right. Yeah, and then just place it and then twist it.
I would note here too. I think I sound like I'm fanboying a little bit, but I kind of am because tamping. If you have to tamp espresso 10, 15, 20, 100 times a day, it starts to put a strain on your arm and your
Yep,
elbow, and you can get tired, and it can change your consistency
yep,
over time. Even develop injuries, and
yep,
so this kind of eliminates that.
yep, exactly. So that is basically what I learned when I start talking to cafe baristas. I'm actually surprised. They says that every day they have to make hundreds, 100 cups a day.
Hmm.
And I cannot imagine that, if you are doing that for 5 years, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
For your careers, basically, like the people says that the injury of your carpal tunnel, all of those muscles sore, and all of those problems start to kick in, and you start to see those when you are older. So
Yeah, not even that much older. Just after you've been doing it for a while, it's
yeah,
it's like a factory job to some extent. Obviously,
that's
there's a
true.
human
Yep,
element, but
yep,
it's as
yep.
as if you are creating the same product over and over again on the factory floor, but you have to talk to people while you do it.
Right, right.
How challenging was it to develop this product? I mean, to go from an idea you had because you were making espresso at home to going working through the class. What challenges have you faced along the way that maybe would have stopped somebody else?
So, couple things that I learned from this journey. This is was 4 years ago, I think. So when I do prototyping, since this is electronic device,
Mhm.
then there are couple items, right? Couple in components like the motor, the battery, the electronics, like the electronic boards, and then the most time consuming or challenging and also money risk thing is the injection molding, the casing. So all of those turned out it's not as easy finding one or two vendors, like suppliers. Like a battery is like one of the things that I finally today find the right one, lock the versions, the one that I really like. But it was a journey because then you try multiple vendors, they come with their own versions. Some work, some don't, some has a good quality, sometimes not, all of those things, until finally you got one that you are happy with. And right now I'm hoping that that company is still on business because that I kind of like, depend on them, right?
Right.
Before I have to find another one.
It's like making a good espresso, you need consistency in
Yep,
your product
exactly. Yep.
and your vendors.
And then injection molding is another thing. From engineering design product until you have the parts that you can inject, it takes couple redesign actually, because not everything that good or design well can be inject well. So injection molding requires some, their own way draft angle, surface roughness, all of those things. Tolerancy for the spare parts is another challenging things because it's has the BOSeTAMPER has mechanical that move the tamping up and down, and
Hmm.
it has to slide in and out very smoothly. All of those things.
And over time,
Yeah.
I noticed the one that you're holding is
Mhm.
actually see through. You can see the
That's correct.
components
Hmm.
inside of it. Is that to show people what is actually happening in there, or is what's the reason for that?
Yeah. So couple things. A lot of people actually like to see things move on the device. So when I end up ordering the clear casing, I basically kind of like, I think this is going to be very cool if you can see what have inside, because like you can see the gear spin, and then you can see what else in the system, in the unit, in the device, on the electronic board, the component, the cables. I think that is very cool. Some people appreciate that, and then they order the clear one because they wanna enjoy kind of like see the mechanism how it works. Yeah.
It looks much more complicated than I would have imagined. I mean, I as a non-engineer, I don't understand any of that. But it looks, I mean, there is a lot happening in a very small space of things that have to work together. If something were to go wrong,
Yeah.
can you repair it?
Yeah. This is back to your question about like how the challenge or what actually
Mhm.
set aside development, product development. I spend a lot of time. I do a lot of prototyping and redesign to make this as a product that can be, what do you call that, serviceable, because everyone should know that things broke, things broken, something snaps there, all of electronic need to be replaced. Then we need to be ready to have those product or those design have that features. Not many designer realize that, and as an engineer, so I have to make it very simple, as in less items. So I call it convergence, like less,
Less places for things to go wrong.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, for example, let's say if the battery is start to degrade, right? Because the battery is kind of semi-consumable. I'm expecting that you replace this a year or so, like 6 months or a year. So this is a rechargeable battery. One feature that I haven't mentioned is this is a wireless charging. It's a key wireless charging. So you are using the same wireless charging like you are using on your phone, and you can charge those. One of the reason why people asking about this, why not just USB cables, and call it a day. I want to make this as easy as possible to clean because this is somewhat touching food, right?
Right.
So you are expecting to clean it, and most of the time you want to clean it with wet cloths, you know. So with the wireless charging, that's enable me not to have any holes for water to seep in and then ruin the electronic, right? So that's the idea there.
Well, and a cafe is a messy place. I
Right.
mean, there's
Yep.
coffee and milk
Yep.
and
And
things
yep.
are
Yeah.
splashing and sure.
Right. And though sometimes, even like the porta filters splash water out from the machine, So yeah, so that's one. And then you can open the plates, and then there's two screws underneath behind the plates. Basically, after you unscrew the plates, unscrew it, and then you can open and then replace the battery. So far, what I heard or see, the buyer is the battery replacement is what they need to do, because that's expected. That is, battery has battery life, and then up to 1 year is what we are expecting. The battery is actually a commercial battery that you can even buy from Amazon. So it's
Oh,
not proprietary. You can buy from anywhere. I sell it obviously, but you can get it
sure.
from anywhere else as well.
Yeah, which I think is, one of those things that you don't think about until you need a battery
Right.
right now. That just happened to me on my drive to the Specialty Coffee Expo. The battery on my car key died.
Oh, okay.
And I was able to buy a new battery at the gas station I was at, which was
Lucky enough, right?
amazing. Very, very lucky. This version that you have, you've been working on this for a couple years, 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
How is this one different from the first one? How is it better? Or, what have you changed?
The most different is the electronic. I think this is maybe even the fifth generation, the PCB. I'm talking physically the PCB. Learning from the battery managements, how to get a better one in terms of standby times. Like right now the display is off. So when the display off, does mean that the battery is completely disconnected, right? It still runs some very small currents there. So meaning like if I just leave this on the counter for days, then it will run out the battery and require for you to recharge it. So there's always those consumptions there. So that's one thing that I've been improving from the hardware until the software. Because like those two is always like, combined as in controlling the firmware, controlling how the electronic works. So making those to get longer, make it longer in
Long
terms
lasting.
of yes, yeah. So one charge, right? So basically, when you have it fully charged, you can just leave it on the counter. So now I'm expecting up more than 2 days. Although most of the time I always recommend and just leave it on top of the charger if you do not need it. So you not never worry about that because like the battery is actually a smart battery. It has its own circuits. So, a lot of people are concerned if you are overcharging the battery and then degrade too fast. The batteries actually have those cut out circuit inside. So we are not worried. My BOSeTAMPER on my counter is always on top of the charger all the times. Yeah.
I have to say, I mean, it seems like you've really thought through a lot of the challenges that the user would have. And I think that comes from being a user yourself.
Yep. That's true.
I'm wondering, you didn't go into this, it sounds like, planning on creating this company. It was something you were just tinkering with.
Yep.
How has being an entrepreneur been for you and your family? It,
Uh,
it feels like it would be a challenge. You mentioned they help you at shows. I mean,
yep.
SCA is a huge
Yes.
endeavor.
3 days. Yeah.
Yeah,
Traveling. All of those things. Yeah.
very stressful. So, how have you
Mhm.
managed to do that while also, having your life and your other career? And
Yep.
what's it been like for you?
Yeah. I haven't mentioned actually. I should mention this during the introduction. On top of as an engineer that like to tinkering, I'm actually an entrepreneur already.
Hmm.
BOSeTAMPER is not my first company that I invent. I actually previously also doing the thing, but in the 3D printer, 3D printer. I own one patents, utility patents on those as well. But I at that time 3D printer is already very saturated. As a business, I cannot survive basically. My point is the entrepreneurships has been in the company since the beginning.
Yeah.
I actually also own a food startup company. I call it startup because it's still small. We make a base plant soybean protein source called tempe. I mentioned I'm originally from Indonesia, and tempe is one of the protein source that is very famous, in Indonesia. So, and then when we are coming to Boston, we like to cook our, food which require or need a tempeh. And then I found that a tempeh I found in United States or in Boston area is not the tempeh that supposed to call tempeh. It's always different.
It's very popular for us to take something and make it our own, for
Right.
sure.
So yeah, and then at this is even previous. I don't know. Maybe this is like more than 5 years now. So now the tempeh is already running. We have a partner. But yeah, so back to your question about how you manage this, how your even your family manage this. Yeah, so since the beginning, when even the kids, yeah, much younger, they already knows that sometimes when their parents do the things, yeah, they already knows basically. They still complain, they still asking, Dad, why you do this? We want to go somewhere on Saturday, right? And then, but we can't. I guess we
Yeah.
have to fulfill the order, all of those stuff. So yeah, it's not new. We get used to a lot of people asking, but are you not having a crazy schedule? You have a full-time job, you take master degree part-times, and now you have the second company, and you are a dad with two daughters, teenage, all of those things. So everyone helpful in the company. My wife, my daughters, definitely very supportive.
Very cool. Outside of coffee, I can't even imagine asking you what do you do outside of coffee. You just told me the whole list of things you do. Uh, let's go this way. What is your goal with the Bossy Tamper? Where do you see this company going or this product going?
So couple things. Since I patents the BOSeTAMPER to not just USA, but they call it PTC. It's like multiple countries. What I am hoping is then either I can mass pro this to bring the production price lower, because that's always the classic things. If you want to sell a device,
Mhm.
the more you order, the lower price you can, get, and then the better pricing point you can sell to your customer. So that's the goal there. We have a couple very promising, brand that I could not mention the name yet, but it's very exciting journey that they are very interested to, carry.
Have you found that most of your customers are cafes or baristas, or are they people that are making coffee at home?
So I think what I can say clearly is the home barista, like an enthusiast, right? Hobbies
Mhm.
that willing to spend, this is $250. So it's not the cheapest, but also not very expensive for an automatic tamper. So they buy it. But then in the last maybe 2 years, I start hearing, and then you can also see their email address, right? It's not just Gmail, but something roaster something or something cafe something, all of those. So you know that they are cafe shops. So I start to see that. So now I would like to say 50-50. The feedback, all the requests is basically coming from a workflow from barista, basically how many tamping you can do in a day, all of those questions, can you do cleaning up easily, all of those questions, like very typical question, daily cafe workflow. So it's very interesting. And then since the beginning, I'm actually expecting that this can be a puck press alternative, because small, cheaper, lighter, it's very good for pop-up, for someone who are doing mobile coffee as well. There are a lot of truck coffee now business.
I think it's a very interesting product. I mean, I saw you at Portland. I mean, we didn't chat, but I saw your product there,
Yeah,
and I stopped and said I met your wife in Chicago recently, and I've gotten a chance to play with it a little bit and see how it works, and it just
yeah.
seems like a very interesting, a cool concept, and I to learn that you started it just from tinkering is pretty amazing to me.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, several years into it now, you've been making your own coffees at home. Do you still go out and get coffee? And if you do, what are you going to order from someone else? Are you judging their tamping when they do it?
No, but sometimes when they are not, if the barista, I'm still sure, I'm still ordering from outside, because this is the things that I learned in coffee. Actually, there is no bad coffee, good coffee. It's really your preference, right? It's really your own taste buds that telling you, I like this, I don't like that. And
Mhm.
then it's always interesting to taste different kind. You know, for example, like couple of years ago, early on, I like Ethiopian because it smells so strong. But then until like yeah, now I want Costa Rica because it's more body, more kick, all of the, and then now change again to do something blend, all of those things. So I do, yes, I do still order from others, but now I shift a bit from latte, cafe latte with a lot of milk. Now become more macchiato, less milk, more stronger one. And people laugh about that because like, yeah, you are going there, getting more and more and more.
Down the rabbit hole. Did I miss anything that you wanted to share today about your company or about you?
Maybe something that I can share about the ups and down, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
what the beauty, what the things that make me cry on the nights, people doesn't know, my wife doesn't know, I mentioned about developing a electronic device take a lot of effort. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just time, but also money. When I say a lot, it means a lot. At least for me, right? I don't have any investor, so everything is coming from our saving, years of saving. So it's basically my family is the investor, basically. So it's meant a lot for me to be able to manage the work, the money's flow in and out. So recently, I try to scale my product, which basically for me, I'm trying to go to the next generations. So I call this is the second generation. The first one is the 3D prints version. So I'm actually planning to have the second generation release in Chicago. And you still see this one, that means it's not working. So I lost 9 months of my times and couple 10,000 grand gone, just gone. Like it's just like hit me really bad, piss me. I mean, like I'm so frustrated because I thought I already due diligence, learned this company. It's actually local design company next near Boston. So I meet with their CEO, their COO, their designer. So their project manager. So in person, right? So it's not like somewhere in different countries, but this is someone that I can drive and meet. And wow, I mean, like,
And this is a vendor that's helping produce the electronics of your
yep,
product, right? Yeah.
yep. That's what I'm expecting, right? They help me to design the third generation and then also going to manufacturers. And basically, what I learned is they just keep blaming me that I'm not doing this, doing that, because like what? Wait, I pay you and I still have to do the thing? Like that doesn't make sense, right? You're like, and then they sign the contract, that this by this date you are going to deliver this with this spec and requirement. Long story short, doesn't do. I have to basically fire them, and I'm the loss of those 9 months and couple 10 grands there.
And the preparation for going to Chicago thinking you'll
Yep.
have it with new
Yeah, all the
customers.
road
Yeah.
maps, people say time to market, right? All of those things. So it's just ruin, and that's the very reasons, like things that hit me really bad. It's a bad story there. Yeah.
That's as an entrepreneur, that's I mean, I want to say it's a risk and it's something that, that emotionally you are
Mm-hmm.
invested in this product, not
Mm-hmm.
just physically and financially.
Yep.
What is the thing that brings you back up then? That
Mm.
makes you say, "Man, this was really hard. I stop? Should
Right.
I
Yep.
just quit?" Why not? What makes you think, "Oh no, there's still I still believe."
Right. Yep. You are putting nail on the coffin. That's the when you believe your products, that's supposed to be enough to kick you step one day at a time, kind of, you know. progressing. So it's always start with that. I really believe that BOSeTAMPER is really good experience. It's not just a tool, it's not just a gadget, but it's a experience from any direction. From the barista, it's helpful. For the coffee owner, it's also helpful because like you don't wanna, you know, you wanna keep your consistency of your high quality latte, right? Or coffee. And then for people who enjoy making coffee at home, you also want to have like new alternative. So with those belief, I
Mm-hmm.
know that this have a chance basically. So I just my principles is only just one day at a time, you know, work at that one by one. And then on top of that, all the interest from markets that make me even believe that I'm not dreaming is I mentioned that couple big brand actually approaching me. Daniel, what are you planning with this? Can we talk? All of those inquiry, and then they do their internal testing. So they are really interested. So that gives me validation, right? A real validation. It's not coming from me because they are coming and then asking for doing or discussing for doing business. Recently, I won, or BOSeTAMPER won Red Dots Award for Product Design 2024, which another things that make me okay. Yes, I'm not lying. I'm not dreaming. BOSeTAMPER is a thing. So that's another things that keep giving me, like energy, right? That
Keeps the hope alive.
Yep, float and alive and step by step, just again consistency, right? That's always been a philosophy that very strong on my journey.
Well, I commend you on pushing forward.
Thank you.
I can empathize with the challenge of having days where you go, I can't believe this thing that I thought was going to work didn't work. I got to keep going.
Yeah,
But I keep going because I believe and you go because not just you believe, but other people have been believing in you
right. Yep.
and in your product. So I congratulate you on that. And Daniel, I really appreciate you took some time out of your day to spend with us. It sounds like your time is in demand. So I certainly appreciate it. And I'm excited to share more about your product and see where it goes in the future.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for the time. This is very helpful for me as well because like every time I have time to share, it's actually like keep reminding me that okay, yeah, just one day at a time.
Okay, some key takeaways from today's podcast. Daniel's an engineer by trade, but a tinkerer by any standard. He and his family emigrated to Boston about 15 years ago, and he's been inventing and starting businesses ever since. COVID lockdowns inspired a new passion for making coffee at home, and since Daniel is an espresso person, he decided to invest in an at-home espresso machine, which isn't a cheap investment. He found it challenging to achieve a great tamp consistently. There's a lot of practice that goes into properly tamping coffee before pulling a shot of espresso. A barista may have the opportunity to pull dozens, if not hundreds of shots in a single day, but if you're learning at home, you may only pull one or two. This tweaked the engineer in Daniel's brain, as he tried to figure out a way to make it easier to repeat his results. What started as a passion project grew with the positive feedback his idea received in a master's program that he was taking at night. Which I should mention that besides developing the BOSeTAMPER, getting his master's degree, working full-time as an engineer, and running another business, Daniel is also a husband and father of teenagers. He's a busy guy. Conveniently for him and his family, his first prototypes were ready for the Specialty Coffee Association's return post-COVID show in Boston, right down the road from his home. And the response that he received there was enough to keep pushing him forward. Developing a product requires testing components, and more components, and tweaking, And when you find a component, like the battery he mentioned, that you like, as an inventor you lean on that vendor to continue to produce that product. If they go out of business, or change their prices, or update their product line, you may be starting over. Inventing a product isn't for the faint of heart or for those who don't like the process of wading through the problems, seemingly endlessly, for those moments where you go, wow, it works. With the BOSeTAMPER, Daniel really came at the challenge of design from the perspective of the user, thinking through all the challenges he was facing, trying to produce an excellent shot of espresso. That perspective is part of the reason the current version of the Tamper recently won the Red Dot Award for product design, which is a pretty big deal. But that doesn't mean things have always been easy. Setbacks like Daniel's recent struggles with one of his vendors are a real gut punch. Inventors have to find reasons to keep moving forward, keep taking chances and risks and putting themselves and their pocketbooks on the line. And for Daniel, ultimately, it was his and his family's belief in the product. I'll add more information in our newsletter at coffeepeoplepodcast.com, and there I'll link to the BOSeTAMPER online store and social media. You can also find that in this podcast show notes. You should be able to find them wherever you're listening today. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, we'd really appreciate it if you'd give us a rating and review. That's the Coffee People conversation for today. Thanks to Daniel Kurnianto for sharing, and to you for listening to the stories of Coffee People, for being inspired by their entrepreneurial efforts, and supporting this podcast by listening, sharing, and sometimes choosing the paid newsletter option on coffeepeoplepodcast.com. Helping us bring this episode to you is this podcast's presenting sponsor, Roastery Coffee Packaging, which you can find at roastery.com. We're also supported by our industry partners. Our legacy partners include Zoombar Coffee and Tea, Steady State Coffee Roasting, Moster Coffee Company, Coffee Cycle Roasting, Maria Coffee, and Cape Horn Green Coffee Importers. Crossings Coffee and Hasea Coffee are our prime supporters behind our Coffee Smarter efforts. And of course, a thank you to our foundation builders, our full city partners, including Cozy Canine Coffee, Ignite Coffee Company, Ascend Coffee Roasters, Ascento Coffee Roasters, Civets Roasting Machines, San Franciscan Roasters, Me and My Uncle Coffee, and Craft 42 Coffee Roasters. That's all for today. If you've made it this far into the season, stay tuned. We've got one more episode for you to go. You can hit us up on Instagram at RoastWestCoast if you've got ideas for guests for Season 11. We'd certainly appreciate the help. This show, the Coffee People Podcast, is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network. This episode has been written, produced, and recorded by me, Ryan Woldt. I hope this episode has found you happy, healthy, and with at least a thread of sanity left, enabling you to make it through the day. Always tip your baristas, and be sure to drink good coffee. If you are in the early stages of your coffee journey, we want to support you. Check out the Coffee Smarter Education podcasts. Coffee Smarter is designed to enable coffee drinkers to brew a better cup of coffee at home. And Coffee Smarter Pro covers industry-specific topics for baristas, roasters, shop owners, and aspiring coffee professionals. You'll find both shows on your favorite podcast platforms or on our website at coffeesmarterpodcast.com.